I'm Hannah.
And I'm Celine.
And welcome back to a further topic of the
We Are podcast.
So today we're going to be talking about beauty standards. Because I feel like I want to talk about beauty standards.
Yes.
And I feel like there's something really important for a lot of boys and girls across the world. And they vary country to country a lot. So we're going to talk about different ones. But let's start off with what are some beauty standards you felt like you had to meet? Wait, no, first of all, what are beauty standards?
Okay, so beauty standards, I would define them as what society thinks makes you beautiful. Certain things that you have to possess or you have to have, certain ways you have to look that make you considered beautiful in the eyes of society and by people in general.
Yeah, and I feel like another thing is just what the current time you're in deems attractive. I feel like that's a big part of it. So what is common beauty standards that you've heard about now that you think are things that you've thought about or even tried to be embodied?
Okay. Well, these aren't necessarily ones that I tried to embody, but they're just ones that I feel like are common.
Yeah.
That I feel like other people have talked about a lot. Well, number one, there's the hourglass shape that I think is a huge one.
Sure.
I feel like just with Kim Kardashian, the whole having a big butt and you know what I'm saying? A small waist and having an hourglass shape. I feel like that is a big one, which it's really hard to attain that, I feel like.
No, and if you don't have that body shape, you're called a board or a man or something.
Yeah, it's if you don't have a big butt or if you have a bigger waist, then you're not fitting in with the...
you're not feminine.
And the thing is that an hourglass shape wouldn't have been considered a beauty standard years and years ago because they changed so much that something that people once thought was no, they're now yes, because it just changes all the time.
I just think especially now, I remember in the early 2000s, it was a sin to have a big butt or something. Everyone was against, you had to have the huge thigh gap and you had to have a smaller, cute little butt. But now it's big, thick thighs and a big butt for that hourglass shape. So it's constantly changing, honestly. But I feel with our generation, a lot of people are obsessed with the hourglass shape, which is very hard to attain. First of all, because normal people's bodies aren't that exaggerated, and that's why you see a lot of corsets and waist trainers coming back because people want that look.
And I just feel there's nothing wrong with that look at all.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with it if you don't have that either. It's fine.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be the thing that you work towards because you want to fit into the beauty standards of society. And for some people, it might be really, really hard to attain in general because everyone's body is different. So they gain muscle and stuff in different ways. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I've talked about this before, but everyone's healthy looks different. I think someone's healthy may be having excess fat and having a bigger, a bigger wider thing. But someone else is healthy. They could be really skinny and have a 6-pack abs. And it definitely just depends on your metabolism and your body type. And there could be a really skinny person who you think has the perfect body that is unhealthy because they don't exercise and they eat really bad food. So it definitely depends on your genetics a lot.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And I think, that brings me to, another beauty standard I feel is, being, really skinny, because I think, the model standard, being, skinny and tall. I feel that's a big one. Being, thin, stick thin.
And tall for men, too. I feel men have so much pressure to be tall.
Yeah, and it's not something, you don't control your height, and there's nothing wrong with,
being shorter.
Being shorter or being taller. It's just the height you're genetically, it's all about genetics, right? It's all about your parents, how tall they are, and their grandparents and stuff like that. So it's not even something you can control, and I feel it wouldn't, no one would care about height if it weren't this, stigmatized thing, or, this big thing in society that we value so much.
And, there's a lot of, I'm just trying to put this out there first, there's a lot of standards for both sides of the aisle, men and women and everything else, but it's just, I feel women have been objectivized over centuries, which is why it oftentimes when we think of beauty standards, we think of female beauty standards. Not to say that it doesn't exist for men, because it definitely does, but I just feel women, it's exaggerated because women are seen as the arm candy and the little cutesy thingy.
Yeah, I feel there are definitely more beauty standards, and I feel like they change more. Like, I feel like for men they're more consistent, but for women
just,
it's
like,
like
being
it
strong and
changes
tall, like
every, like, being muscly and tall, right? And then
Yeah.
for women I feel like it's like hourglass, and then it's stick thin, and then it's like
thigh gap, and then it's
Yeah.
having. Oh, I want to talk about this like really. Actually, you know, in the second half we're gonna go into like more different countries and like historic, like beauty standards, which I'm
Okay.
excited to talk about certain things.
Okay.
But for like, what has been like a beauty standard that you felt that you had to live up to?
I would say my beauty standard that has affected me the most is like having clear skin, because I think that is definitely a beauty standard of like having glowing skin. And I have had like acne, so obviously
Yeah.
I don't always have like clear skin, but I feel like that's just something you see all the time with like people, like, oh, having this like perfect skin, which isn't like realistic at all. Like, I feel like, because a lot of people
Yeah.
struggle with like whatever it is, like acne or like skin conditions.
And another thing is like, you are expected to have that all the time, and you can't have clear skin all the time. Maybe you have those months where, or like weeks where you like have a good skin day, but then there's also the weeks before like your period or something where you're breaking out, and
it's like, I feel like it's just so unrealistic, just the standard of like having clear skin. What about you? What would you say is the one that most affected you?
I don't know. I feel like there's like a couple. For me, I kind of like get fixated on one thing and then I like change them.
Okay. Do you have like a specific one that you want to talk about?
Oh, I'm gonna talk about like hair.
Okay.
I'm a hairy person. Okay, I'm not like insecure about this anymore. Like, I don't really care. But like in maybe like before I was, and so like I'm a hairy person because I'm like Indian, and like a lot of like European and Indian people are really hairy because it's just like that. Like Italians and like Russians and Indians are like super hairy. But anyways, Indians probably the most out of all of those people, and Middle Eastern people. And so like I'm from like northern India, so like I have hair literally like everywhere. Like my back's hairy, my neck's hairy, my arms are hairy. I don't have that much face hair, but like everything, like my legs, oh my god, I have very thick, coarse hair everywhere. And like the kids are so mean. Like they literally like call you like werewolves and like.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, the kids have called me werewolves. I've heard
that's
like,
really mean.
Like, oh, you should like wax. Like, ew, you look manly. Like all this stuff that makes you feel so dehumanized. Like, you get treated as if you're like an object because of like genetic things that you can't control.
And there's nothing wrong with being hairy either.
Yeah, like what is hair gonna do? Is it gonna eat you? I think not.
And it doesn't make you any less like
feminine.
Yeah,
because people like act because I'm like. And my friends that are like also Indian or Asian or whatever, if they're also hairy, they're like less feminine, and that's so stupid. Because I think like the beauty standards surrounding like what defines femininity and masculinity are so stupid. And also like, I have like broader shoulders, I would say, and so like we were like I was at a dance recital, okay, or not a dance recital, like a dance practice. And one of the ladies was measuring me, she's like, oh, your shoulders are broad. And I was like, what about it? What about it? Like, are you gonna, my bone structure, you have an issue with that? Like, what am I supposed to do about that?
What's wrong with that? Like,
yeah, okay, so,
shoulders, okay.
What do you want me to do about that?
Yeah.
Is it hurting you that I have broad shoulders?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just feel like people...
Is it paining you to see hair on my arms? Like, I am sorry. It sounds like a personal problem.
Boom. Take that. Yeah, no, I agree with, like, what you're saying. Like, why is it your business? Why do you care?
Yeah, literally, I feel like if everyone just, like, didn't get involved in other people's businesses, the world would be such a good place.
Oh, yeah.
But that's literally
maybe not. Yeah, it would be a better place.
It would be so much better.
Yeah.
But... what are like other? I feel like I'm just gonna go through a list of them. Okay, like I feel like having like having less hair. Also, like I feel like people who have like this sounds weird, but like pretty fingers and like toes.
Oh, like feminine fingers.
Yeah,
like dainty. Okay, I just gotta say something. I have really ugly hands and really ugly feet. Like my feet are like next level.
Mine are like kind of just like they're.
But it's fine. Like, do I care? No, I actually really don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. But like, society would be like, oh, your hands aren't feminine enough. Because I feel like we just think of like hand models with like painted nails and like rings on their finger. Like, I don't know.
And the other thing is like beauty is so subjective that everyone's beauty standards, like even if there's like a big one out there, everyone's vision of that one will alter slightly.
Yeah.
And by that I mean like someone's will be like, hair down is beautiful, or hair up is beautiful, or like, some people have like a different idea of what slim, thick, or like hourglass looks like.
Right.
Because they'll be like, okay, hourglass is like really exaggerated, and other people will be like, no, it's more like moderate.
Yeah.
It's so subjective that
There's
you can never
standards
please
within-
everyone.
Yeah.
You can never
Yeah.
fit everyone's mold of beautiful, and that's really important just to understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I agree with that. And another one I feel like I've experienced is also, like, I feel like there's just a thing about, like, having thin hair. That everyone, like, thinks having thin hair is, like, a bad thing. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Literally,
Like,
genetics,
personally.
again, like,
Like, I don't know, you can't control how thin or thick your hair is.
my
and
mom,
there's nothing, like,
I
wrong
remember,
with
like, especially in, like, Indian culture, having thin hair is, like, a sin, because everyone has thick hair.
Mhm.
So, like, when I was little, I had really straight, like, fine hair, and my mom would, like, put oil in my hair, like, every day.
Yeah, yeah. But I do just feel like that's, like, kind of a beauty standard that's, like, whatever. Like, it's hair, you know? Like, I don't know. Any others?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about them in the second half, so, like, that covers our first half.
Oh, I'll just give a few, like, statistics, too, quickly.
Oh, yeah,
So-
Give us a go away.
79%...
Take it away, not go away.
Go away. Bye, guys. So 79% of Americans said they have felt unhappy with how their body looks at times. And what's interesting is that a lot of people feel like it's most like prevalent, like the body insecurity, when looking in the mirror, when at the beach with a bathing suit, which I can understand that, and then when shopping for clothes. Which makes sense.
I
Like,
understand.
mirror.
Oh my
bathing
god, another thing that I actually quickly want to touch up on is like going to stores is kind of like nerve wracking because it's like a lot of people just want to have like this small fit into the small clothes.
I feel like
And
sizes.
The
your
thing
size.
with me is in some stores I can fit into like an extra small perfectly, and in other stores I need like a large to get like a good size.
Yeah, I feel like there's a thing where you have to fit into a certain size, whether it's like extra small
Yeah,
or
or like with jeans,
whatever.
you have to be like a size 4 because a size 4 is like ideal, like.
or
thickness.
some people are like you have to be a size 0, otherwise you're
Yeah,
like,
no, I've heard like so many people say that size 4 is the ideal jean size because it
There's
means you have a
no-
big butt, but you also are skinnier. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because literally size 4s can be different. Like I have a size like 2 in jeans, and then I have like a size 8.
I have a size 6 and then I have a size like I don't even know
Like 00.
Yeah.
So it literally every single store is different in that way too, which is another proof of how like beauty standards are different. And the size doesn't mean you're anything. It just means like you should buy clothes that fit you, and you should buy clothes for a goal to fit in them.
yeah. And actually apparently 65% of adults feel like there's an ideal body, which I think is important to realize that there is no ideal body because everyone's image of an ideal body is different and everyone's ideal body for themselves is different because everyone's level of health and like is different. Yeah. And genetics too.
For sure.
So I think that wraps up the first half. Second half, Ahana's gonna talk a lot about some
Historical and just like
other countries and how this plays a part. And yeah, alright. So thanks for listening. Stay tuned. Bye.
welcome back from the break.
Welcome back.
All right, so let's dive into it. So I'm just gonna talk about like how important, like on a scale of 1 to 10, do you think beauty is in society?
Like my personal opinion, or how I think society thinks it's
How society thinks.
7 or 8.
Yeah, and I agree with that actually.
I
I feel like
do think
okay,
it's like
pretty privilege is such a thing.
it is.
And if you didn't know, like pretty privilege is basically like when you're attractive, you get treated better. I can
You have more
testify to that personally. Okay, literally, I used to be bald and like glasses, braces, like the whole shebang was happening everywhere. And literally, I was so like no one talked to me. It was like awful because like you know people make assumptions on you based on your looks, obviously. And so there was that. And then like when I got rid of all that, suddenly I had friends coming out of nowhere. How does this work? That doesn't logically make any sense.
Yeah.
And also, like, people who are, like, attractive... So, student council elections recently happened at my school. There was this guy who literally goes, yeah, I'll vote for the girls who are hot. not voting for people based on their qualifications, like not voting for like people based off like what they're gonna do, but just voting. I don't even know who he voted for, but just the fact that he said that is like so gross to me.
That's so.
Because it's like, even if it's a joke, it's just like.
Like, there are plenty of qualified people out there, and you should not.
So pretty privilege is such a thing. People, like, definitely treat people who are attractive better. They give them more attention. They treat them like they're richer. And especially, like, in other countries, which is, like, I'm going to talk about, is, like, when you're pretty, you get married off faster. Because arranged marriage is so common in other countries still, like, in Africa.
Yeah, so how do you think, like, I guess what you're talking about with, like, pretty privilege, how do you think that plays a part in marriages in other countries?
Okay, so in other countries, I'm thinking specifically, like, what's it called? Eastern Hemisphere.
I still have to do that. Never eat soggy waffles.
Yeah. Okay, so in the Eastern Hemisphere there's, like, a lot of arranged marriage, and in, like, sort of South America, too, still. So, basically, arranged marriage is, like, when your parents sort of find you a match, and you kind of have to roll with it. It's kind of bad.
Yeah, and you might not always.
I know people who've had arranged marriages, but basically, it's a matter of opinion. I personally am not a fan of it, but you know what? To each their own, I guess. But basically, in arranged marriages, especially historically, they would just pick whoever the prettiest bride was, and it didn't matter how the groom looked. It was just how pretty the bride was, and then they would marry them off to the richest groom. And the richest groom would get the prettiest bride, and
like,
that was
the
it.
Girl would have to be pretty, the guy would have to be rich.
Yeah, and then they would get married off. And, like, a big part about that, especially in, like, Asia, is, like, skin color. Even, like, not even just, like, features. If someone had a lighter skin color, then they would get married off fast because that was considered beautiful. Oh. And the extent this played is, like, we actually, in our news updates, like, a couple of weeks ago, we, like, did an update about how there was like, dangerous amounts of mercury in skin whitening products in Asia. Okay. Because so many people were obsessed with getting that light skin tone that they would literally put poisonous mercury on themselves to achieve that look.
So do you think, like, skin color was, like, a big part of body image in
100%. Like, I think in America we think of it, like, differently because it hasn't, like, affected people in the same way. Of course there's racism, but I feel like the scale that it's had, like, in, like, especially, like, in, like, Japan, Korea, China, Vietnam, Middle East, and India, like, those areas, like, kind of like South and East India, all those areas are obsessed with skin whitening, and they are treated like racist. Again, wait, what? They're treated like racism because of, like, their skin color, but it's different.
Yeah.
Because it's like they use product. They're like the same kind of race. They're just different variations.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this is basically that it gives you an advantage in society to have a certain skin color. In this case, to have a lighter skin color.
Yeah, and you could be the same race. Like, you could both be, like, Vietnamese or, like, Korean people. But if you're, like, one shade darker, then you're uglier. Like,
yeah, it's less about, like, your black and white. It's more about, like, within that racial group, like, how
definitely.
Okay.
And, like, people historically, you wouldn't get married if you were darker colored, but it's also, like, now people use skin whitening products, like, if you're not lighter, you get so much trash for it. People get surgeries, they get, like, skin replacements, people bleach themselves. The extent people go through for that beauty standard still today is insane. To the point where they would literally put mercury to kill off the melanin in their skin so that they don't be colored.
Oh my gosh.
And so they're so obsessed with this. Like, you could Google it, and there's these innocent videos of how to get lighter skin with 3 easy steps. How to get lighter skin with using at-home ingredients. And they're completely innocent. Like, it's not a con. It's just, like, a common thing that everyone wants to achieve. Like, you go on YouTube in America, and you see these videos, and they're like, how to, like, you know, get whiter teeth. Like, that's, like, a beauty standard. But in like, those countries, it's, like, how to bleach your skin in 3 easy steps. It's like, it's insane.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. Like, I didn't really know about this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was so prevalent in other countries, because I feel like that happens less in, like, the U.S. We as Ahana said, there are definitely different types of racism. There's definitely racism still in the U.S.
Yeah.
But I think is different than in other countries just because
Yeah.
it's on a different.
Because in here it's more
Yeah.
just like people are treated with racism, but in other
Yeah.
countries race plays into beauty more, which is
Okay.
yeah. Because
Okay.
like in America, I think it definitely used to play into beauty more, but in Asia it's like an entirely different tangent, and it's insane. And I could go on for days about like this and how bad it is, and like even like super famous actors that like we hear now have been seen promoting skin whitening products in the past, like Priyanka Chopra, who's like married to Nick Jonas. She like she doesn't do it anymore because she was like a victim of it herself. She was a victim of wanting to be white, so she's like, yeah, as like a 11-year-old, I would put on these mercury creams just because that's what society told me I needed.
I think it's something that, like, growing up with that you would definitely take measures to fit in, because that is a beauty standard.
Yeah.
And as we said, a lot of people will do anything they can to obtain that beauty standard, even if it's not even a legit beauty standard at all. Like, even if it's not, shouldn't be a beauty standard. But,
wow. Oh, wait, the last one I want to talk about, so I was kind of like, wanted to talk about this a lot, but apparently, like, I forget, it might have been like Japan, I don't know.
okay.
But there's like an area in the world where it used to be like people with small feet were the prettiest people in the world.
I heard about this.
They would like they would get like gauze or like some sort of like cast and wrap it around their feet, and you would have these giant arches in their feet.
Gosh, I remember hearing about this.
I think I told you about this.
Did you tell?
Yeah. And they would have like giant arches in their feet from like years and years of wrapping their feet in like the casts, because it would like instead of like shrinking your feet, what it did would cause an arch, so your feet would like look like an arch. And so it would like be like really tiny, like width-wise. But if you look at it, it's super tall because there's a giant arch.
That like hurts, damages your feet.
Definitely bad. There's another one where like long necks were a beauty standard. So they would put rings around their neck of like metal, and it would stretch your neck up so high until you have like the longest neck.
Oh my god.
And then the last one I think is just kind of like a fun one to end off of it. I think it was like in Africa, the fattest people, like the fattest women were the most attractive and attainable because it meant that you were wealthy enough to get food. So the people who were fat, they were considered wealthy and they were considered beautiful because they were wealthy. So the men would get the fattest woman that they could get, and it was a beauty standard. And that just goes to show that everyone's opinion of beauty is different everywhere. So you know,
it changes. Don't follow so you know what? Whatever, I think what you should listen to is like your own definition of healthy and what that means for you, and that should be your, if you want to call it, beauty standard, your definition of healthy for yourself.
If you're beautiful, then you're a good person and you're doing your best. Anyways, so I hope you enjoyed the episode today. I was not very intense.
I think that was really fun to talk about. I think it shed light on a lot of things going on in different countries, and kind of like this whole like what beauty standards are and the issues with them.
Yeah, and like how it's not universal. There's different things for everyone, and just know that you are loved and accepted by us, if not anyone else.
And yourself. Love
and
accept yourself.
Self-love is the most important thing in the world.
You know what? We should make an episode about self-love.
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 Okay.
That was kind
anyways.
Alright,
follow our social media in the bio. Email us or DM us for any questions, and let us
stay
know.
tuned.